Yeah, welcome to the Aro Benaiah Show, where we share all the stories and strategies of rebuilders, people who create brand and grow from ground up. Today, I'm joined by Audrey Wiggins, known as the Tech Diva, an award-winning brand strategist, entrepreneur, and host of Tech Diva's Biz Talk. She has over 30 years helping businesses strengthen their visibility, build trust, thrive in a digital-first world. Let's dive into her journey today. It's really a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you, Errol. It's my pleasure to be here. I appreciate the honor.
Yeah, thank you. So, Audrey, what was it like growing up?
It's comfortable. Yeah. We had some snow and then some rain, so it's gonna kind of warm up today.
So, you started your entrepreneurship journey at age 15. What did you remember most about those early days of selling clothing with your mom?
That was actually it was fun, and just being able to please the people. I remember like how she was like describing the items that she was selling. To the people. It was fun, and just listening to the customers and them sharing like what they want, and and us being able to provide that. But it was and of course I was young, so making a little money was always exciting.
Yeah, so true. Amazing. So you graduated high school at age 16 and entered the marketing world early. How did that shape your drive and discipline later on in life?
Oh my gosh, it seems like I've been in the fast lane ever since. And it's like, okay, I need to like slow down. Because my mind is always it's moving. Okay, so what's next? Okay, wow, so you graduate from high school and I went to the college. I went to the community college, the 2-year college. So I got my first degree, the associate's degree. But I was still young and I wanted to make money. So I asked my mom, could I get a job? And she said, oh, sure, you can get a job. So I got my first job, and it was over, at a camp with my sister. And so that was my first time really being introduced outside of the church setting to nonprofits. And I had a lot of my jobs were in nonprofit, and because you're serving people. So whatever I did though, I kind of took ownership of whatever my job was. And sometimes you'll go to jobs, the job descriptions rather, they'll talk about having an entrepreneurial spirit. And that just means taking ownership and, really taking pride in your work and showing initiative. And those are some of the tools that were in my, mental toolbox then.
Wow. Amazing. So you faced personal losses and setback along the way. What kept you going during those difficult years?
Wow. This is my faith in God and look, half believing in myself, because sometimes that imposter syndrome will set in when you're struggling and trying to go through, but really believing that what I was doing and am doing really matters. And sometimes it is hard to do it, and you may go dragging to get there, but as long as I just never, and so that's, for now I'm all the way up to, retirement and back into the game full time again. So still feeling like I have, that I'm relevant and have something to offer. So people who are struggling and dragging through, believe in yourself, keep your faith, and you'll make it, because you didn't start it. You started this business or your innovation for a reason. And that reason still exists no matter what's going on, around you.
Yeah, amazing. This really, really comforting, being that you have been there before and now you have given us more like a word of advice. Yeah, it look really, really amazing, being that there's a whole lot that comes with setback and the fact that, I've been down and pulling yourself up. Yeah, it's really a lot. And the fact that just hearing you make reference of your stories and coming out from it strong, it's really, really amazing. Yeah. So founding Altogether Marketing early 2007 was a huge milestone. What inspired you to bet that company?
Okay, I was already in marketing, and at that time, I'm going to go back just a little bit. 2001, my mother passed away just after we had the 9/11 attacks over here, and then 5 years later, December 2006, my father passed away. And it was, so I'm still was really grieving my mom right then. Here he comes. And so 6 months later, back in that June of, reaching over to June 2007, I was feeling better about life, about myself. And it's like, I have it all together now. And, well, partially there, I think we'll ever reach that pinnacle. Because we keep growing and learning. And I said, I have it all together. And, that's going to be the name of my business, All Together.
Wow, that was
had nothing to do with marketing, right?
yeah. Wow. That was really a lot. Being that your dad actually more like pass out. You lost a dad during that period, and even your mom. And yeah, it must be a very tough time for you. And even as a dad, you were still able to kind of put yourself together. And yeah, now I see how the name comes to me. Yeah, it's really, really amazing. So you have worked with everyone from solopreneurs to Fortune 500. What's branding challenges did you see across all levels?
I'm just really messaging, just, trying to make sure that, understanding really what my client needed and how I would articulate that back to them as far as how I can serve and, not being afraid. Because sometimes I would be kind of like, scared or whatever. But it was a blessing, though, that one of those Fortune 500 was a former employer. So when I left, they hired me as as a consultant. And the same thing now when I just retired back in the last December 24. That was my previous employer, the university, and in the engineering department, as a matter of fact. So that was fun. Just really to be, prove myself. So those were kind of the challenges, making sure that communication is there. And sometimes when you're close to people, even when you're organizations, even when you're not, pricing is always a challenge. Not that you're charging too much, but that you're charging too little because we undervalue what we do. It's like, oh, well, they pay for this. Pricing products and services was always a challenge for me out the gate.
Wow, amazing. And I think when you just make reference to pricing, it just dawned on me that being a solopreneur or those who just starting their business, I think almost everybody passed through this route, being that at first you have more ability and you're doing a whole lot of big things. It's easier to look down on what you're capable of doing, owing to fear, owing to what people actually more like perceive you to be when it comes to branding, when it comes to putting yourself out there. And yeah, I think it's more like a struggle every solopreneur goes through before what they do become a company and before they actually more like work out a better route. And just hearing saying it just means, it's a common problem for every person starting out.
Yes. Yeah, because when you think about it, when you work for somebody else, there's a team, you have mentors built in, so you automatically have the circle of influence, the circle of support around you. And so then when you come out and we're on our own, we don't have a boss saying, "Great job, Audrey. Great job, Aro. You really nailed it on that particular project," or whatever. We're kind of like have to like tell ourselves or our customers, they send the check. So it's like, okay, they obviously like what I did. And sometimes, they'll sort of have one customer, she'll always say, "Audrey, you the bomb," whatever. So she's very encouraging. So we have to still have those people around us to build us up. And it's not like we're just so weak and we need somebody to pat us on the shoulder all the time and say, "Oh, good job. Good job." It's not that. It's something because we're human, right? So we're built for community. We're built to be in relationship with one another. So that human aspect or human factor, it just doesn't go away. So we need a cheerleader. Shout out to my friend Jessie. She's always been there for me and, egging me on. We need mentors and coaches, when we can afford to have coaches or go to group coaching. So we can be around like minds. That is so important because people will tear us down in a second because one, they don't understand what we're doing, or two, they're envious and, you're doing something they haven't done. It's like, so how do you get to do that? And so we really do need that circle.
Wow, amazing. Everyone need a community to grow, to become more, and this is really amazing. So how did the name Tech Diva comes about? Because just when I saw the name, I was like, whoa, this actually carries a whole lot of energy. How did the name come into be?
Understand the Tech Diva part, okay? Part of my quirkiness and early adopting into technology, whatever that is, and so I was there, don't tell anybody, Earl, but I was there when we had the microcomputers into mainstream business. So when those new tools came along, and even before that, we had typewriters and physical calculator machines. There were those things are just always fascinating to me. And I've told this story before on other interviews, how when I worked at the American Heart Association and they always had fundraising events, and there's one particular event called Jump Rope for Heart, literally, jumping rope. So they had the teams, they had the schools, the teams, the teacher, people collect the money, you had prizes. And so we didn't have computers where we can throw that stuff into Excel or a Google Sheet and have things, spread out. We can look at it at a glance and put formulas on it and calculate how many people participated, how much money they raised. All of that was manual. And so on my typewriter, I created a form. And I didn't know, of course, way back then, but it looked just like an Excel spreadsheet. And so I had all the columns and going down the left and across the top. And, of course, we had to use the calculator to tally everything up. It always talks of, the adage of, what is it? Oh my goodness. Necessity is the mother of invention. And so we needed some way to do that. And so today, that same concept is in Excel and in other types of programs like that. And so I've always adopted earlier tools and was innovative in my thinking. And then I just wanted to learn more. I'm a lifelong learner. And so I was thinking of a name for myself, Queen of the Digital World and different things like that. But, I always used to call myself tech savvy. I'm a tech savvy marketer. That used to be one of my tags. And so then it just clicked with, I'm like, chatty. So that was a little diva in me. I like to dress sharp and blah, blah, blah. So put those two together and that was the Tech Diva. I know it was a long explanation, but.
Yeah, it's totally welcome being that. I think just being that the way you came up with the name, Whistle means every time if I have job for you now and I just came around, yes, Tech Diva, what do you have to say about this? I think it will definitely trigger a lot of different ideas compared to if I should address you as Audrey, what do you think about this?
Right.
Yeah, amazing. So many small business owners struggles with visibility. What simple actions can they take to stand out today?
Okay, so we're talking about branding, but it's more than just, branding. It's showing up as yourself. That's one way to stand out because there's only one of you, right? There's only one of me. So bringing that personality into what you do, we still are serious, in our products and services, in our, in our conversations, but bring that side into it. But outside of that, that's your personal. But when you do show up in the marketplace, if it's right now, it's basically a digital marketplace, right? And so everything has to be congruent and, consistent. If you're or whatever your logo or your brand is. And sometimes we get caught up in the graphic part and the titles of our brand, but how we talk, our personality, our business culture, that's part of our brand as well. So again, we're being authentic. That helps us to stand out. But as far as the tools that we're using or technology, of course, video is still number one. And so being out there and sharing what you do. And sometimes people think that they're bragging or about if they're going to, talking about or doing videos of, like you're an influencer or something. But we do have to show up in the marketplace. We have to be where the people are and really, sharing what we do. So just being consistent about it.
Yeah, amazing. It's showing up consistently. I think this really spoke volume, especially in this then age where every person who wants to buy, want to connect with, the person behind the brand, the person behind who actually more like offer that particular product. They want to see how they think. They want to see how they interact. They want to see how they talk. They just want to connect to the person behind it. Because I think I was discussing this with some persons other day that, I think branding these days is totally different from the way it was before, being that it seems those who are the owner of those businesses most times have more followers at the end of the day, being that they are the owner of the business compared to the page that is dedicated to the business. I'm like, why is it that very way? Is it that people, it just don't know me that people love to connect with people behind the brand who are actually more like who is the key person of influence when it comes to that particular business and company.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. People do want to connect with the person behind the brand. So we have to be accessible, right? And I love AI chatbots and things like that. And because they do have their place, but also, maybe sometimes having an open forum or giving workshops, the free ones as well as the paid ones, and just showing up and making, and being engaging in what other people are doing. Okay. So this person genuinely cares about me, and they're not just, putting a check mark, and don't just do the like button. Use the love or the smiley face or the, insight or, the heart, and leave a comment. And that brings people closer to you as well. And that represents, okay, that's still a part of who you are, right?
Yeah.
That's still a part of your brand.
Yeah, thank you. So what are the biggest branding mistake you see new entrepreneurs make, especially in the digital age?
Wow. I would think some of this is behind the scenes. It's like using too many different tools and then you don't use any. So really showing up and understanding, what this tool is going to do for you versus the other one, and really put it into practice. So that's going back to the technology part of it. So doing that. And the other thing is just like a pet peeve, like emails for me, is use the branded email. You have, even if you don't have the website yet, always use a branded email. So it's it's Aro Benaiah at Aro Benaiah or Aro at Benaiah.com.org or whatever. Using your brand in your email, and that just helps to strengthen your SEO and your footprint to brand recognition. So there's your name. There's nothing wrong with using Gmails and Yahoos. We all have them, but they have their place. So definitely use a business professional email. Is a mistake I think that people use today.
All right. Thank you so much for that. And I think it just speaks volume when it comes to being consistent in respect of your name, the website, and if everything becomes consistent, once they search for it, it's going to pop out a link into different area, other than having another different form of the same thing, which doesn't speak volume. So you have spent over 30 years shifting from print to pixel to a whole lot of different form. And it just dawned on me that if I was to be in that particular age, would I be able to catch up with this technology and the way it has been evolving? How has the journey been for you, and how did you stay relevant as technology evolved?
Guys, because when I first stepped out, in my own thing, not with my mom, but the branding and marketing, all I did was design flyers and program books and logos, all of the graphic stuff, and everything was printed back then.
Yeah.
We didn't have websites, so everything was a printed piece. The glorious business cards. I still believe in business cards, but I also use a digital business card. So I use that mostly because you can connect with people easier later with your follow up. And so then as it moved on into websites, again, there was a learning curve. So learning that type, because at one point, and this is kind of funny, when I first started, I was home based, and so we didn't we didn't have cell phones when we first started. Everything were the landlines. And so I was in my house though, but then working with printers, that's a commercial business, and I'm an individual with a home phone, and working out of my basement. They need assurance that they're working with a legitimate print broker, that's what they would call us, or legitimate business, not just somebody out here trying to get a discount in print services. So I had to get a business telephone line put in my house so that I could show up in the phone book. Do you remember what a phone book is?
I watch it on TV.
You watch it on TV, right. So, that was crazy. And of course I did have a business account. I had the ID numbers. I had all of that stuff, but for them, it was important that I was legitimately showing up in the business section of the phone book. And now, of course, hardly any of us using landlines. Yeah. Most of us are using cell phones, and they could be you can say it's for your business or you can say it's for not. At that point, it doesn't matter. But if they can find you and they can find your website, they can, so you're going from print to pixels, right? So going from that, showing up in that phone register to now showing up on the internet with a website, some kind of social media presence. And of course, now, we do podcasting. So that's a plus.
Yeah, amazing. Thanks for that. So your journey involved resilience, reinvention, and even imposter syndrome. What helped you push through self-doubt at various stages?
Oh God, it goes back to I think our first question, when we first started the interview, is having that faith in God and believing in myself, even if it was hard to believe in myself sometimes, but still you have just enough through the tears and the shoulders crunching over, to push forward. And just again, being around like-minded people. We have to learn to keep things to ourselves sometimes, not our struggles necessarily, but things that we're doing in our dreams. We really have to save those for people who encourage us until it's really time to put it out there, because discouragement comes in all forms and it comes from all different, folks. It's what perseverance. Yeah, it just, and it's not easy all the time, to push through and to keep going, but you just do it. You just press forward. Like I said, I went back to work and did those things, and and there was an advantage even to going back to work, because then I was able to take all the classes that they offered, right? To keep my skills current and keep growing, and that gives you encouragement too. You can get your little certificate from whatever course you took, and you start to feel good about yourself with with different parts of the way, and there's people patting you on the back, but you just to keep going. It's almost like a runner, right? It's like, and I've never run a marathon, but you see the runners and they all take off at the same pace, right? Everyone's together. And then there's some that branch out further than the other ones, and there's some struggle along, and the first 2 people, 3 people, they cross the finish line, but then there's always those others that just take, longer to come through. They're not laggards, they're not lazy. It just took a little bit more. And guess what? I'm getting chills thinking about this. I'm seeing these people in my head as they're running, doing that course, and there's people, cheerleaders on each side of the track, and they're like, you can do it, you can make it, keep on going just a little bit further. And so we may not be in that literal situation where there's the actual physical people, but we can hear the voices in our head, just keep going just a little bit further. And along the way, you pick up one little thing, and you master this, and you say, oh wow. And then you pick up another thing, and then so you master that, and you keep building. You keep building on whatever it is that you're whatever your goal is, whatever that dream is, and you just keep pushing through. And before you know it, you have a whole closet full of wonderful things that you've done and that you can look back on, and you can be grateful. So gotta be grateful, because we're pushing through it. A hard time is not something just to make us sad and hold us back. It's just a lesson. It's a different type of school, different type of classroom for sure.
Yeah,
and then we can help others that come behind us that are going through the same thing.
Amazing, amazing. Thanks for that analogy. It's really eye-opening to how we could push ourselves, and look at those who are encouraging us to, and just at the end of the day, we just keep pushing and keep showing up.
Yeah.
So you open a nail studio while working full time. How did that experience teach you about business, customer, and survival?
My goodness, that was one of my grief behaviors, creating. I just kept creating stuff when I was grieving.
Yeah.
But that was a good experience, because that was a hands-on type job versus designing flyers or coming up with marketing plans and editing videos. So you had your customers, they're right there in your face, and you're physically touching them. So you actually make a difference in their lives. But so I learned patience, because, people, their scheduling times, people aren't always on time, and sometimes they had a good reason, sometimes they didn't. Sometimes they show up, and sometimes they stood you up. And so just learning how to really relate to people, and you can't get mad. You're angry. You might, you get upset because they did upset your schedule, or, because then you mess up the person coming behind them. But just learning how to communicate respectfully to get your point across without damning or insulting a person. So customer service was a great skill there, and just learning how to retail and and market your products and services, and just really be a well-rounded person.
Yeah, amazing. Thanks for that. For entrepreneurs who feel overwhelmed about marketing trends and tech, where should they start from?
Wow. I would start with wherever you may not be ready for your website, but I would grab your domain name. So grab that. So of course you have your business plan. What is the product or service that you want to offer? And you may already know that, or you may be looking at, okay, I want to go into business in franchising or some of the network marketing companies. I mean, that's really how I started with the network marketing with Mom. When I was 15, we were doing that kind of business. And so start there. So you have a plan. Who's my customer? What am I going to sell them? And do I need training for that, or do I need some retraining? Maybe there's something there, and just so I would definitely take advantage of any of the free courses that any government programs or the community services that are offered for that, and get a mentor and a coach. So those are kind of the soft sides of your business, of really, okay, what the foundation, and then decide. I know I jumped out there with the domain name first, but and then once you come up with the name of your business, then you can reserve your domain name right away, even though you aren't ready to use it yet. Because once you start thinking of things where this saying, there's nothing new under the sun. There's somebody else that might be thinking of the same thing,
Yeah,
or
so
real
true.
close. So you just make sure you grab that and put that in your back pocket and hold that. That's probably the least expensive thing that you'll invest in.
Yeah. So your web TV show gain our recognition for uplifting minority entrepreneurs. Why is storytelling important for growth?
That was oh wow, that just opened that up. Started that in 2010. And I really enjoy that, because I was serving people. So people, just like we're doing this podcast now,
Yeah,
you invited me on to talk about what I do and try to help other people. So that's what that was. And that show is Make Something Happen TV. And that's where, so I interviewed people, and it was all video then. I wasn't doing audio. I really didn't even know about audio. I was just using a tool that I was in a toolbox that I bought of video products that I used to sell through network marketing. And it was a web TV show was one of the tools that was in there. But people recognize that. And people see what we're doing, so we don't have to sometimes shout it through the rooftop, but they notice what I was doing and how it was helping others. And so that's how I ended up getting an award for that TV show.
amazing. Thanks for all you do.
Thank you.
Thank you. So what does authentic branding means to you, especially in a world full of automation and AI tools?
Yeah. So how we keep our branding is the same. So bring that with us, with in our automation and all of the technology that we use, and see how that matches. And I'm looking at the border going around this video. It's purple. That's part of my brand. It's purple. Royalty. I love that. Those colors. So whatever you're doing, bring that with you into the technology, but just don't lose your humanness. And I love using artificial intelligence, to help me do this or that. But I'm really bringing myself to the technology to get out of it what I need.
Wow.
As far as my brand goes. So you talk about, like I talked about before, your messaging and your voice, and not just the audible part of it, but the tone and the character of who you are. That's your voice. So always keep that and bring that with you to no matter what technology you're using. You may look at what someone else is doing, and because the same thing when you take classes, you're learning from the person at the front of the room or on the screen. So we're not necessarily trying to be them. We're emulating the process or the method of what they're doing, but bringing ourselves into it.
Amazing.
And that's part of our branding.
Yeah, bringing our uniqueness to the platform and doing it differently. So, looking ahead, what is the next for Audrey Wiggins and Together Marketing? What should we expect from Tech Diva brand?
My goodness, Tech Diva is going to be an author.
Woo, we can wait.
That's what's next for me as an individual. Just pulling it all together. There's that word again, right? Of what I've done, throughout the years, back from '94 when I quit my job and went into business full time. Then and just bringing it to full force. Bring it all the way up to 2025. So that's what's next on the horizon for me, and in the company, just producing some more content as far as more online courses. Really want to get my artificial intelligence courses out there. So that's pretty much what's what's out there for me, and that's to help others again, serve, so we can all grow and get to that that next level.
Yeah, amazing. So I'll be looking forward to your book. So Audrey, and how can my audience learn more about you? How can they connect with you?
Yes. Okay. So if they go to altogether.biz, and that's one L because we have it all together.
Okay.
And they'll be able to yes, oh my gosh, they'll be able to connect with me there. There's a contact form. You can sign up for my newsletter that goes out. I always have marketing tips and tech tips in there. So it's like a micro masterclass in the newsletter. So I enjoy putting that out and helping folks. Yeah, so definitely all together.
Wow, amazing, amazing. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Audrey, for sharing your stories, your resilience, and your brilliance. For everyone listening, can connect with Audrey and subscribe to our weekly insights at altogether.biz. This has been the Aro Benaiah Show. Keep building, keep growing, and keep believing in what you are creating. See you in the next episode. And once again, it's really a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. Thanks, Errol.